time and go.
Hey, good afternoon, Facebook and Instagram or social media. I don't know how I'm supposed to say that. Jerry, coming to you from Costa Rica at the Rythmia Life Advancement Center. What's Rythmia? Rythmia is a life advancement center that uses ayahuasca, farm-to-table organic food, breathwork, meditation, yoga, metaphysical teachings, the cleanse, 4 ayahuasca ceremonies to bring about this amazing change that's a soul merger with the intent on making you a beneficial presence on the planet. It fixes your life and then sets you up for making you a beneficial presence on the planet. How do I know? Over 18,000 people have been through the doors. 18,000 people. And 98.37% report a life-changing miracle during their stay. Better than that, 6 months later, 90.22% say that number one, the miracle's still working in their life, but number two, that this was the week that changed their life. And when people do this, they have this this amazing feeling of they just want to help. So this is called Ceremony Secrets, I believe, number 9. And it talks about, I have 351 ceremonies, and it talks about some of the revelations that I had during those ceremonies. And I want to start out by saying this. I am not a shaman or a thought leader or any of that. I'm a business guy who had an incredible experience in his life and decided he wanted to become a beneficial presence on the planet. That's it. Now, I have a tremendous amount of spiritual leaders, shaman, and other folks that really are thought leaders in their own category and right, who've been here and who represent Rythmia. So let's talk about that. All of these people have come here and decided to join our board of directors. Who are they? Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer. Kelly Slater, the world's greatest surfer of all time. Martin Luther King, the civil rights leader and son of Martin Luther King. Michael Bernard Beckwith, Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith of the Agape Spiritual Center in California. Ron White, one of the funniest comedians of our times, if not the funniest. Earl Koski, the businessman. Frank Biden, the ex-president's brother. Jeff McNary, have all been here, experienced it, and joined the board. And most recently, Mark Kielberger of civil rights activist and biohacker, podcast host, and an amazing guy from Canada, and Kim Terranova, an amazing Rythmia teacher who's been here forever, but in her own right, a true thought leader. All on our board of directors, and all said yes. I'm a busy and important person, and this thing has made such a difference in my life. I want to represent it. How crazy, right? Amazing. Little tiny spot on a dot on the map in Latin America that has all this thing. And what an amazing, amazing, amazing place. If you have a moment or two, go to TripAdvisor, over 2,600 5-star reviews. Just amazing story after story after story. And that's why all of these people come here. And I forgot to mention Alanya Van Zant on our board of directors as well. Amazing woman. And what we find is that by putting all these amazing folks together, that the lines that separate us disappear. So I have like hard right-wing folks and very liberal folks from the other side who get together here and never mention a word about it. That these imaginary differences that kind of get imposed on us, they melt away in the light of love. And I say that in a really interesting way, because it's not a mushy, airy-fairy kind of way. It's a real thing that happens here, that we see our commonalities, not our differences. And that's the whole idea of what love does, right? So in this series, and this is normally what happens. Somebody comes here, they have this experience, so you got to figure 98 and a half out of 100 people have a life-changing miracle. And what happens during that time? Well, the fragmented pieces of themselves get pulled back together, and either because of this or as a result of this, they hear the word of God. So as a younger boy, I was in Catholicism, and I would pray and pray and pray and say, if there's a God, show me. If there's a God, speak to me. If there's a God. And I didn't have the unison within my being to be able to see a tree and understand that that was God's word. I didn't. I wanted someone to speak to me. And when I did the medicine, I got that. So do 98.5% of the people who come here. And once God speaks to you in the voice of God, and you realize that you were born into this incredible garden of a planet, and you got to experience this full range of the human experience by being here, that all of a sudden you decide that the gift you've been given, you want to give back, and you want to make this a better place for everybody who you touch. That's what becoming a beneficial presence on the planet is about, that my dear friend and brother, Michael Bernard Beckwith, talks about every Wednesday and Sunday at Agape. That's it. Becoming a beneficial presence on the planet. It's a lifelong endeavor. It's your ceremony, and most people get the charge to do it after they had this experience. So people have a lot of questions because, and this was interesting. So I've been doing medicine 9.5 years, 10 years. And I remember previous to that, I would always question if there's a God. And now, and I don't mean a God, old man in the sky type of God. I mean a higher power or even nature of something more than me. I always question it. And what I notice is when I hear someone question that now, I go, what are you, dead? Like, how can you not? In other words, any debate in my mind over that was wiped away 10 years ago. And I live in the knowledge that this goes on in not in a form of belief, but in a form of unquestionable reality in my life. I don't have to believe. I know it. I've seen it. I've spoken to it. That's gone. So a lot of people had questions over this whole journey and living a life of plant medicine, and what does it look like? Well, I want to tell you, one of the questions I get is, how often do you drink ayahuasca? And the truth is, for the longest time, and when I say the longest time, I'm going to say the better part of 9 years, I drank it like once a week, with a couple months off a year, once a week. And then In the latter part, the last 9 months, I probably drank medicine twice. I believe that I'll probably drink medicine once a month or once a month because I'm in this business. If I were not in this business, how often would I tell you to drink medicine? I would tell you to come up to a place like this once a year. That's what I would say. Not that there aren't those people that have the time, the energy, and the income to pursue the quest for the origin of the soul, the spiritual life. They can do it multiple times. But I want to tell you what I learned. I learned more in the space between doing medicine than I learned in the moment. So this is what that happens. So your being opens up and knowledge is poured into you, right? When you're doing medicine. Knowledge that's beyond, you're seeing things that are so other dimensional and so that transcend words in such a way, a volume of information that it takes a while to integrate that. And what do I mean by a while? A minimum of 3 months. So if you do 4 nights of ceremony, you need a minimum of 3 months to integrate that. So I'm going to tell you, the biggest strides I had in my life were the first time I did plant medicine, and then when I quit doing it for 6 months, that I had this amazing expansion, because all of the information that I've been getting, if you don't give yourself time, and the word integrate is so overused and so misunderstood. All integration means is I'm going to take the lessons from this medicine, 50% that I perceive and 50% that are unperceivable by me. And I'm going to let time in my will on the things that I know happened, and time on the things that I don't know happened. I'm going to give that time and space in my will to bring them into my life. That's what that's about. And I have been really lucky to have the opportunity to do that. Now, it's made enormous changes. Lots of people are asking me, how about addictions? Whether that's, and the funniest thing is when people talk about addictions, they immediately think alcohol, tobacco, drugs, and they're just apparent ones. There's so many harder ones to get to. Work being a good one, but shopping and gambling and porn or sex or relationships. There's so many addictions. So how does this medicine work with addiction? I'm going to give you my story. So when I first did this in 2014, I had been a lifelong smoker. I was the kid that started smoking at 12, right? By the time I was 17, I was smoking a pack to a pack and a half a day. By the time I was 20, I was smoking 2 packs of Newport a day. And I did that all the way up until the night that I did the medicine the first time. And in that night, I threw my cigarettes away. And immediately thereafter, I didn't smoke at all. Later on, like a year, 2 years later, I started smoking a cigarette or two, and then on occasion a pack. And the next thing you know, I started smoking again, and I had to quit again about 5.5 years ago, and I haven't had a cigarette since. But I want to tell you the act of quitting. So at that point, I stopped doing all drugs in the beginning. Now, the medicine separates us from what we're addicted to, but not in a way that gives you strength. So I want you to catch this. So let's say my addiction was food, and I was just eating a ton of food and da 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 da. And now the medicine is not, we don't use it specifically for addictions. We don't have a license to do it. But the medicine, not the place or anything, will separate you from the thing that you're overusing, whether it's food or this or that. And it does it not by giving you self-control, but by taking away your desire for that thing. That's part of the system of using this medicine. So initially, I was a really big drinker, about 250 drinks a month. Now, right after plant medicine, I went down 80 to 90% reduction in drinking. When I took 6 months off from the medicine, she told me no more drinking at all. The whole time she could have told me that, and because I had no pull to drinking, I could have quit. So it wasn't like something that was on me. She takes away the on you. But when I get back to the proper use of medicine, nobody ever gets addicted to ayahuasca. Why? Because for all people, it's an odd enough feeling in the best case to a harsh enough feeling in the worst case to not do it for the joy of doing it. What do I mean? What do I mean by that? Anybody that's done recreational drugs like MDMA or marijuana or alcohol, you know, you get that joy, happy, there's no cost to it in the beginning. Ayahuasca is not like that. Ayahuasca comes with a cost. There's purging for most people. There's some body pain. It's going to show you things you don't want to see yourself. People don't do it for recreation. This is a real thing with a real purpose. So, but in order to get the full benefit of what you've been given and shown, you need time. And if you're going to do this thing, like in what I mean by that is, you can take 5 kids and send them to school for engineering, right? All 5 of them graduate, 3 of them do horrible with it, but 1 of them takes everything that they learned in engineering and applied it to their whole life in their career, and they build a big engineering company, or they become an Elon Musk or something like this, right? Same thing with this medicine. You were opened up and you were given all of the tools during this week. Now, you choose to integrate those tools at your own velocity and depth, right? That's your own personal thing. Some will do the most amazing things. 90.22% will say that it was the week that changed their life. But still, maybe 10% of those people will be able to integrate and use this thing to create and to change, create new businesses, change the world, affect their neighborhood, affect the people around them in a very, very, very grand way, right? In a big way, right? And one of the differences, if you constantly or continually doing the medicine, sometimes you don't get, so I talk about it like this. If you were buying houses and you just bought a 40,000 square foot house, right? And you walk into the lobby or into the foyer, and you go into the kitchen and the dining room and the living room, just the big rooms, and all of a sudden your assistant calls you and says, hey, you just bought another 40,000 square foot house. Well, you get pulled out of that house into a new 40,000 square foot house, and you're just in the foyer, in the kitchen, and you're about to go in the living room, and your assistant calls you again, you bought another 40,000. This is what a lot of people get stuck in with the medicine, that they didn't even get a chance to view and use the gift that they were given before they go and pick another gift. That's the ceremony secret that I'm giving you during this little broadcast, right? That it's being able to utilize all of the knowledge. And the thing is, you only know about half the knowledge you got in a journey. The rest of it comes as your own ideas, your own thoughts, your own this in your everyday and waking life. So those are my things for you when it comes to how often should I do this? What's it like for drinking alcohol? And so the purpose of what I was saying, it will take from you what it needs to take from you in order to give you the opportunity to have this incredible life. I'm going to give you my cigarette smoking story. When I threw my cigarettes away after the first time when I did the medicine, I thought, holy shit, that's so easy. If quitting is so easy, why shouldn't I smoke again? That was the thought. It cleared my deck, right? But I had to stick with it and acknowledge it. It's so potent that it can lead you to say, well, because I have this ability to stop doing all these things, I should continue to do them. That's not the gift of the medicine. The gift of the medicine is saying, thank you for removing those things from my life, right? But more importantly, I will continue to do my half by not doing them into the future, right? That's the gift of the medicine. That's the real gift. That's Ceremony Secrets number 9. And I will talk to you next week. Whatever you're doing, I want to tell you something. What is behind you is not of your concern. That it doesn't matter what your history was, what you're working on, doesn't matter. Come here, get this thing back together, and start and have a new life.